Okay, this is an example for multiplying a binomial times a trinomial, and I'm going to do it two ways, one unstacked and one stacked. So because it's a binomial times a trinomial, 2 by 3, there's going to be 6 multiplications. So I'll start on the unstacked one. I'm going to multiply the first term of the binomial times the first term of the trinomial. Just as a reminder, these coefficients, since they're not written, are implied to be 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, and then q times q squared is q cubed. Then I'll take the first term of the binomial times the second term. Again, we've got a coefficient of 1, so 1 times 1 is 1, q times q is q squared. Finally, that first term times the third term, 1 times 1 is a positive 1, and then I've got a q. Now I'll come back and multiply the second term of the binomial times each in the trinomial. Negative 1 times 1 is minus 1q squared. Minus 1 times 1 is minus 1q. And minus 1 times 1 is minus 1. Now we're just left to combine like terms. First of all, there's only one q cubed term, so we write q cubed. And again, in our final answer, we won't put the 1 coefficients in. Let's see, what else do we have? We've got a positive 1q squared and a negative 1q squared, so that drops out. We've also got a positive 1q and a negative 1q, so that drops out. And then finally, we've got this minus 1. So the final answer would be simply q cubed minus 1. If we stack them up, just like in regular multiplication of whole numbers, put the one with the larger digits, in this case the trinomial, 3 terms, on top, and then the binomial on the bottom, and we'll multiply just like we would if we were multiplying whole numbers. So negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 times q is negative 1q. And negative 1 times q squared is negative 1q squared. Just like with regular multiplication, we're going to drop down and then move 1 to the left as a placeholder, and now we'll multiply the q times each of the terms of the trinomial. Q times 1 is plus 1q. Q times q, and again that's 1 times 1, is 1q squared. And then finally q times q cubed is, or q times q squared is q cubed. And again, just like with regular multiplication, we then add up these like terms. And notice these like terms line up. And there we have 0, here we have 0, and q cubed. So again, we get the same answer.